I'm not a lawyer. Everything I'm sharing here is my personal observation as someone who's been watching the case of Min Heejin and New Jeans versus Ador and Hybe. My background is in marketing and in business, and that's the lens that I will be using in trying to deduce the strategy and the game plan that Hybe used or implemented to win this case. So these are based on court documents and reports released by Korean media. Please understand that what follows are my opinions and insights, and they are not legal conclusions. I'm not claiming they are ultimate truths. If you're not here for that, please stop watching. But if you are, I hope that you learn a thing or two, just like I did, in terms of thinking long term, understanding how emotions and business and brand power collide. Let's go. I think Hybe knew pretty early that the five members of New Jeans weren't coming back. They likely really tried their best to mend the ties, but when the members of New Jeans went to the court, delivered the statement personally stating that they are not coming back unless, of course, they reappoint Min Heejin. I think that's when they knew, and that's when they shifted the strategy. And also, when the parents of New Jeans became involved, they started giving interviews to the press, and one set of parents, I think, separated because they were fighting for custody because one parent didn't want to sue, the other parent wanted to sue. That's when they realized that we need to s- really think of what we can salvage, the more important things in the long term. And I think it came down to three things. Number one is not setting a precedent. They definitely do not want to embolden other artists to break their exclusive contracts by waging public opinion wars, because that's not just going to undermine High, but also the entire K pop industry. Second is that they wanted to prove that they are actually fulfilling their fiduciary duty. They wanted to legally demonstrate that they really supported in all the right ways Adore and New Jeans, to the point that they were actually breaking standard protocol within Hype just as so they could accommodate New Jeans, and that included not mentioning the names of other groups when they are talking about the achievement of another. They also gave New Jeans a lot of opportunities that they did not provide to other groups, like that Apple partnership. It has been disclosed that it was actually between Hybe and Apple, not between Min Heejin and Apple. And I think they needed to do that because they definitely want to continue attracting the right artists. That is the backbone of their business. But also, they wanted to make to continue raising the confidence of their investors. They want to prove legally that they know what they are doing and they are doing it the right way. And I think the third is that they wanted to vindicate and protect their existing artists. They have multiple labels under them, and those labels have artists that are delivering result. So you don't want to destroy their confidence, their self-esteem, and of course their reputation. So I think they wanted to prevent similar internal fractures by strengthening systems and processes so that there is a clear creative boundaries across labels. This case exposed Hybe's most obvious vulnerability, and that is media relations. Min Hee-jin was far more agile in forming narratives, and she understood something fundamental, that the audience loves sensational headlines, and they love it even more when the target is a giant company. She also knew that Hybe's groups are very popular, and that meant it comes with an equally large group of haters and detractors, and she was willing to weaponize them. And I think Hybe, by contrast, couldn't. I mean, who are they going to wage war against? Their own group, No Jeans. And so Min was playing offense and they were playing defense. And I think that's why they later on appointed a new PR head, because media relations and PR in a conglomerate of this scale isn't just about sending press releases. It's really about brand architecture, managing how each label, how each artist, executive fits into one coherent identity. And I also think that there are internal and structural flaws. The mere fact that Min managed to gain information and access to resources outside of her own company, and also transfer trainees across labels, and also gain access to the accountant of BTS. Those things point to significant operational lapses in internal control. Once Hybe and Ador filed a lawsuit, the question wasn't who's right, but what can be proven in court. And that's why Hybe went to such great lengths for a group that was publicly cutting ties with them. They allowed Min to retain a board seat. They offered her a continued producer role. And to a lot of people, a lot of fans, that was absolutely mental. It was crazy. Why will you allow a person who tried to destroy your company to continue working for you? But to the court, all these gestures became a proof of good faith. While they were doing all of this, the five girls and even men continued their war in public opinion. So they continued giving out interviews, talking about the case and what they allegedly had to go through. And Adore just continued working for them. They continued planning the world tour. They continued giving them brand deals, production, and the court recognized that, eventually stating that the reason they did not get a new CEO was because they were trying to get the CEO that you wanted, which was Min. So I think Hybe's limited media responses, while that was very, very frustrating to a lot of fans, also paid off because the court explicitly stated that Min was the one who initiated the public opinion war, confirming that Hype's silence wasn't really apathy, but it was more a legal strategy. This battle was fought in two arenas, in the court of law and in the court of public opinion. Min won the latter early because she spoke first, louder, and in the language of emotions, which a lot of people understand. Hybe's focus, however, was the legal battlefield, and in that arena, silence is power. I think it's a reminder that corporate communication strategy must adapt to the context, because in the media, silence can be fatal. But then in the court, that's the smartest thing that you can do. You don't want your opponent to know your next move or know what you actually have against them. The downside is that Hybe's legal composure left a communication vacuum. And in business, silence can be read as guilt. So it started damaging and affecting many of the groups of Hive, which of course isn't healthy for the groups. So the restraint actually helped Hive in the legal battlefield, but it allowed hate and misinformation to spread uncontrollably. I think, as I've mentioned in the earlier point, the only way you can counter that is if you have a strategic media plan, branding plan that you implement early before trouble begins. And that's why they have the PR person now. But I guess it's an inevitable recurring mistake that large corporations assume that for as long as the truth is on their side, things are going to work out, but it rarely does. Now, things are starting to turn for the groups of Hybe, but it doesn't change the fact that they had to go through something that they didn't ask for and that really damaged them, at least in the short term. I also learned something from Min to never assume that the audience is that stupid. I think public opinion can shape perception, but it can never substitute for proof. And her miscalculation was assuming that people will not question her narrative. She reframed standard business practices as something that is manipulative. For example, album pushing, that is the act of coordinating with distributors for them to buy albums in bulk and also do some promotions. That's a completely normal business strategy, but she framed it as manipulation. And then she also criticized Hybe's global deal with Universal Music, claiming that she could have negotiated better on a per project basis, ignoring that the financial reality is that Hybe's scale gives it leverage. And also, there is cost to doing a la carte partnership. And I think her biggest mistake was the plagiarism allegations. She didn't anticipate that people are going to challenge it, and the internet quickly unearthed examples showing that her own choreographies, aesthetics, visuals were also copies or inspirations from other groups. So I think in accusing others, she inadvertently exposed her own creative borrowings and her manipulative tactics. I'm going to say the quiet part out loud, but never go to war against women and children, especially not those that are painting themselves or framing themselves to be victims of oppression. And I think Hybe knew that, and they acted very, very carefully. They never antagonized New Jeans publicly. Instead, they maintained posture and they continued providing assistance. They left the door wide open for the girls. When Hani appeared in the National Assembly to testify against workplace bullying, the CEO responded humbly. I think any defensiveness would have instantly branded her as a bully. Even Bang Shiyuk remained silent. And I think that's strategic, but also he knew that had he spoken, he would have been painted as a powerful man trying to silence young women. I think silence at this stage really preserved the image of Hybe. And I think that restraint actually reflects their brand discipline. It's the same principle that is being applied by Apple, Disney. They know that sometimes power is best expressed through patience and silence. I believe Hybe and Ador, to a certain degree, just allowed Min and Nugins to talk, knowing that much of what they are going to say would have later served as evidence. Hannis claimed that Eilit's manager asked the girls, Eilit, to ignore her, the plagiarism accusations, the press conferences. All of this, in hindsight, became documented proof that Min's intention was not to protect New Jeans, but to actually detach Ador from Hybe and also take New Jeans with her. And the court even noted that this case typifies what happens when an artist achieves success and start believing that they have managerial authority over a company. It's really a cautionary tale written in precedent. Min's greatest weapon wasn't her evidence, it actually was her storytelling. She understood that perception can actually drive the value of a brand and dictate the narrative. Each time she would make a public statement, the other groups under High would actually get affected. And in an age where virality dictates value, she knew that public sympathy would create some sort of a financial pressure faster than any kind of legal motion. Hybe, on the other hand, stuck to silence. And it looked weak. And also, as I've said, it affected the groups under Hybe, at least on a short term. But I guess later on, it did serve them in court. This case is actually a masterclass in modern business, whether you run a startup or you're managing talents or you lead a creative agency, the lesson is still the same, that ownership must be clear, governance must be firm, and emotional loyalty will never ever replace contractual accountability. Nugent's case actually proves that in today's hybrid world of artistry and commerce, those who build emotional brand or connection with the audience must still answer to the structure that sustains them. I hope you learned something. I certainly did. Would love to hear your thoughts, the lessons that you've learned, or if you disagree or agree with me, you can say whatever it is that you want to say. Just please do so respectfully. Please consider donating to the channel. The QR code is on your screen right now. We have launched our online magazine, Asian Entertainment and Culture.com. It's on a soft launch. Next month, we're going to do a formal launch. Any kind of suggestion, inputs would be appreciated. Also, please follow me on X, Instagram, but more importantly, on Patreon, because that's where the community is. I also do a members only live stream on Patreon and YouTube. Those don't go public, also exclusive videos. So please consider that as well. That's it. Please like the video, subscribe, and hit that notification button because we upload videos almost daily. Please don't miss those. And that's it. Please share the video. That's the most important thing. Share it to your friends, to your family members, to your exes, to your classmates. Leave a link on your social media, on your messaging app, on your text messages, on your emails, everywhere. That's going to push the algorithm to recommend this more. Thank you so much. Till next time.